He saw it coming.
It makes the writers look bad.
Oh, come on,
I think
Harold.
it does.
Doesn't make the writers look bad just because they surprised the world. We have an installment of Bragging Writers that focuses on the very interesting dynamic that is the NL West. Left to right on your screen, John Shea has covered the Giants for a long time for the San Francisco Chronicle. A.J. Cassavell, same thing with the Padres, MLB.com. Gentlemen, welcome to you. And, John, we'll start with you. Give me your best 60 seconds on why the Giants are better than advertised and have a chance to go back-to-back in the NL West.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, the rotation. My prediction right here is the Giants' rotation ERA will be better than the Padres and the Dodgers. I mean, they're pretty deep. I mean, you just look at spring training. Spring training numbers don't really matter. You're here just to work on things, develop pitches, and get in the groove. Well, the five that are projected to open the season have a 1.97 ERA. Logan Webb, the A's opening day starter, said this could be the best rotation in baseball. And a couple of the veterans, including Rodon, have actually supported that claim. So that's pretty good for starters. Number two is the depth. I mean, this team had no MVP candidate, no Cy Young candidate, no Rookie of the Year candidate. They had the Manager of the Year and the Executive of the Year. What does that say? Well, they got a lot out of who they were. And the third one, intangibles. I mean, this is analytic-driven team, right? Intangibles. I asked Gabe Kapler yesterday, I said, how do you compete in a division with these loaded-up teams, the Dodgers especially? He says, well, intangibles. It's about believing in the team. It's about unselfishness, accepting the roles, all those things. I mean, they did it last year, and they're determined to do it again this year.
A great case. By the way, to your point, I mean, look, you rolling out Alex Cobb as your number 5. I think that split change is going to play really big in that ballpark, and I agree with everything you said. So, A.J., the pulpit is yours. Your best 60 seconds on why the Padres are going to be better than advertised and could win the NL West.
Yeah, John stole some of my talking points about the rotation because I think this Padres rotation is as deep as any in baseball, especially after going out and acquiring Sean Manaea. You look at the National League West contenders, I think it's fair to say that this Padres group has the most ifs, the most kind of question marks. But those question marks come with the caveat that there is a lot of talent there. I mean, this rotation is legitimately 8 to 10 deep. It's predicated on health. They didn't have the health they wanted last season. They fortified a rotation that they felt was deep last year and ended up not being because of the health. And they added a few arms to it. They added Manaea. They added Nick Martinez. So it's a deep rotation. Offensively, they didn't make maybe the major splash that some people felt they would, but they add Luke Voit. You put C.J. Abrams, their top prospect, in between Jake Cronenworth and Manny Machado in the infield, and that's probably a lineup that I think can sustain some of the attrition without Fernando Tatis Jr., and eventually you're going to get Fernando Tatis Jr. back. And so this team, given the pitching depth and given, I think, where they'll be when Fernando Tatis Jr. comes back, might be primed for a second-half run. And, again, I think that all ties back to the depth of the rotation.
Boy, I agree with you as well. You add Voit, you add, Manaea, and perhaps most importantly, Bob Melvin to a team that was pretty good last year before things went south on them. I agree with that, too. So now I'll ask you guys something. Knowing how you'd respond, I'll cut you off at the pass because all columnists and writers, we hear this all the time. I don't write the headlines. Don't get mad at me. But I'll ask you to write a headline for this purpose and ask you for a headline if you were writing a column describing your career covering the team that you cover. So we'll start with you on this one, John. A column headline for John Shea's career as a Giants writer.
Well, I'm looking at the team in particular in 2022, and a lot of people call them a fluke, and I guess the headline would be, they called it a fluke, and the Giants want to prove them wrong. I mean, this is a team that won 107 games, and people said it's a fluke. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts and all that. Well, listen to what they did. I mean, they had the most home runs in the National League, the most home runs in the history of the franchise, and they've had some pretty good home run hitters over the year. The best OPS in baseball, the second best ERA in baseball, the best bullpen ERA in baseball. They had 10 guys with double-digit home runs, 16 with 7 or more home runs. I mean, they were loaded. I mean, they didn't have like the MVPs or anything, but the problem is they're losing Buster Posey, Kevin Gausman, and Chris Bryant and Solano, all these right-handed batters they didn't replace. They didn't get a new right-handed batter. They got Jock Peterson. I thought they would go out and get some more of those guys. But listen, it's tough to condemn a team with their roster construction, considering they're coming off 107 wins.
Got it. All right, AJ, let me ask you the same thing then. A headline for a column that would describe your career covering the Padres.
Well, I think mine would be a little existential. I'd probably say, who are the Padres? Because this is a team that for a long time was kind of punching bags in the National League West. And in the last few years, they've started to spend money. They've started to accumulate talent. All of a sudden, you look at this roster on paper, and it's probably the most talented roster in San Diego since they went to the World Series in 1998. And so this is an interesting group because they still lost 83 games last year. And so they need to address some of the issues that led to their collapse, and they feel that they've done so. They brought Bob Melvin on board. They revamped the coaching staff. The pitching depth has been fortified. And so I think what we learn this season will go a long way toward telling us whether this Padres project, whether this investment, whether all these big names and all the talent they brought on board, whether that project is working. So I'm as excited as anyone to kind of find out who are these Padres.
All right, the last assignment for you guys in this installment of Bragging Writers is the best 60 or so seconds on how a fan can spend an afternoon at your home park at Oracle and at Petco. And John, once again, we'll start with you.
Well, the experience is a day experience. It's not just a few hours at the ballpark. You know, first you have San Francisco. I mean, the most beautiful city in the country. I lived many years in San Diego, but I got to tilt the scale to the north. I mean, it's only 7 miles by 7 miles, but it's got everything you want. I mean, the Golden Gate Bridge, the cable cars, the crookedest road in the world, Coit Tower. I mean, you can go on and on. And shoot, we have Alcatraz, where our El Capone used to live. We got rid of that guy, but it's real nice now. But it's listen, just the bay and the bridge. And I'm not talking Mission Bay and Coronado Bridge. I'm talking the San Francisco Bay and the Golden Gate Bridge, or the Bay Bridge, or you don't sleep on the Santa Fe Richmond Bridge. I mean, gorgeous all the way around. San Francisco has the fog, L.A., you know, the smog. I'll go with San Francisco.
It's amazing how we're doing a San Francisco versus San Diego narrative, and John still found a way to take a shot at Los Angeles. It's such a San Francisco thing. You have to do it. All right, AJ, last 60 seconds yours. Make the great case for how to spend a complete, perfect day at Petco Park.
Yeah, well, I'll start. I don't want to be too cliche, but I'll start by just noting the weather. I mean, it's unbelievable 12 months of the year. It's not just the 6 during baseball season. But, I mean, I have some colleagues that kind of give me some grief sometimes, ask me if I write my stories at the beach, and I don't, but I could. And that's kind of the point there. So you got the beaches, you got the weather, the Balboa Park, the zoo, the gas lamp. It's all pretty incredible. And then you cap that off with a beautiful ballpark kind of right in the heart of downtown. It's right in the middle of everything. I don't know what more you could possibly want from a city.
Got it. Man, I think we ended this exercise, as we occasionally do, in a dead heat. Really. I mean, very fond of both places. Born and raised in one, spent a decade in the other. I couldn't pick a winner here. What about you? You want to score this or not?
I don't. I mean, all I'm going to say is San Diego, it's just a better hitter's park, I think.
Oh, there it is. There's the bias coming out.
I got to pick San Diego.
John Shea from the San Francisco Chronicle, AJ Cassavell, MLB.com. We appreciate you guys having a little fun with us today. Enjoy opening day in a couple of days, and we look forward to seeing you at the ballpark.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
So I'll take one of those lines and add to it. And, you know, John used this to describe San Francisco. I think the same could be said of San Diego. When you say it's got everything you want, both places do, and then a few things you might not want.
Yeah.
like a ridiculous tax base, etc. So we could keep going with all that. But,
of course.
Look, those are two jewels in our game. Those are two great writers who've been doing it a long time, and we had a lot of fun with them.
Yeah, that was great. Well, you pinned them against each other, and I really enjoyed it.
They didn't take the bait, though.
You really tried. I saw you.
They played with a lot of chivalry. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We have some more spring highlights to get to.